My girlfriend said I was sweet but boring and planned to fake our engagement for clout, then dump me. So I proposed in front of everyone with a box full of drone pics of her kissing a different fiancé. I never meant to hear it. I was at Wild Fern Books in Boulder, tucked into my usual corner table near the back, headphones in, editing photos from a recent elk shoot near Estes Park. The sun was setting through the window panes, casting warm light across the floorboards. It was one of those rare, quiet evenings where I felt totally at peace. Then I heard her laugh. I paused, lifted one side of my headphones, and looked over my shoulder. Fiona, my girlfriend of 2 years, was sitting at the next table with Riley and Tessa, her 2 gym friends. They hadn't seen me. I was behind a tall stack of books and an old plant stand. She was talking fast, smiling wide, her voice cutting through the cafe's soft indie music. Okay, she said, sipping her smoothie. Here's the plan. He's gonna propose. I'm, 99% sure. He's been acting all secretive, and I found a Pinterest board open on his laptop. Riley leaned in. Shut up. You're kidding. Nope, Fiona said, eyes gleaming. And I'm gonna say yes. But only so we can get the photos and the likes. Maybe a little engagement buzz for my next protein launch. Then, 2 weeks later, bam. We're done. They all laughed. My stomach dropped. I didn't move. I just stared at my screen, frozen. I mean, come on, she continued. He's sweet, sure. But the guy tracks birds for fun. Who does that? He lives in fleece vests and gets excited about animal poop. It's cute for, a minute, and then it's just boring. Cole's not boring, Tessa said, half-heartedly. Please, Fiona snorted. He edits all pictures in coffee shops. The last movie we watched together was a nature documentary with zero dialogue. I need a real partner. Someone exciting. Not a guy who thinks moss is interesting. I didn't feel angry. Not at first. I just felt hollow. With slow, careful hands, I reached for my camera. It was sitting on the table beside me, already on. I tapped the menu and started the audio recording feature, something I used for field notes when I didn't feel like writing. The little red dot blinked on. Her voice kept going, talking about how she'd fake cry, how she'd post about choosing herself, how I'd bounce back eventually because guys like him always do. I sat still for a long time, didn't even blink, just listened and recorded. Then I saved the file, closed my laptop, and walked out the front door without a sound. I didn't say a word to Fiona that night. When I got home, she was sitting on the couch in leggings and a cropped hoodie, watching some reality show on mute while scrolling through her phone. She looked up, smiled like nothing was wrong, and said, "Hey babe, want Thai or sushi tonight?" Like she wasn't planning to turn my life into a punchline. I smiled back. Sushi sounds good. From that moment on, I played along. I kept waking up early to make her protein shakes, kept rubbing her feet after gym days, kept letting her use my truck when she needed a clean backdrop for her brand shoots. But something in me had switched off. I was no longer her boyfriend. I was her shadow. The next morning, while she was out at a spin class, I went through the house with the quiet precision of someone setting traps. I installed 2 motion-sensitive cameras, one in the living room, another in the bedroom. They were small, disguised in smoke detector shells I ordered off Amazon. I added an audio recorder under the desk, just in case. And then I waited. She was careful, I'll give her that. Never left obvious messages, never came home smelling like cologne. But she wasn't as careful as she thought. I started combing through her tagged photos on Instagram, not her posts, but her friends. Riley posted a boomerang from a gym party 2 nights ago. Fiona was in the corner, laughing with some guy I didn't recognize. I zoomed in. Tall, loud smile, flashy watch. I didn't know him, but I knew the look. The kind of guy who sold cars with a wink and wore way too much cologne. I met Riley from a dummy account and asked who he was. She replied in 5 minutes. Evan. Owns a dealership in town. He's dating someone though, I think. Interesting. I kept digging. Eventually found Fiona's private Finsta, which I had no idea existed. It was under a fake name, but one of her workout friends had posted a comment linking it by accident. It wasn't public, but she'd accepted the follow request from my dummy profile. Probably assumed I was a fan. The account was full of half-naked mirror selfies and inside jokes. One post showed her with Evan's arm slung around her shoulder at some rooftop bar. Caption: Girls who lift don't chase, winky face. I took screenshots. Every one. Over the next 2 weeks, I compiled more than I ever wanted to know. A hidden folder on my hard drive filled up with timestamps, photos, videos, tagged posts, and saved stories. I even tracked her location once using Snap Map from an old friend's phone. Found her at a luxury day spa when she claimed she was visiting her mom. Every day, she kissed me goodbye, smiled for my camera, called me her rock. Every night, I added another file to the collection. I didn't feel rage, just a quiet sort of clarity. She thought she was planning a show, but so was I. It was the hiking boots that tipped me off. She posted a photo of her feet dangling off a rock ledge, mountains blurred in the background, captioned, "Solo hikes equals solo peace #self-care." But those boots? They weren't hers. She had borrowed mine 2 months ago for a weekend trip to Utah and never gave them back. I knew those scuffed-up soles anywhere. That's when I knew for sure. She wasn't hiking alone, and she wasn't anywhere near Boulder. I decided to follow the lie. Fiona had mentioned she had a content creator networking weekend in Vail, something about yoga retreats and brand mixers. I nodded, kissed her goodbye, and watched her load her gear into a rental car, smiling and waving like nothing was wrong. Then I got in my truck and drove after her. I kept a good distance. Stayed in a cheap roadside motel 10 minutes outside Vail. On the second day, I spotted her walking into a boutique resort with Evan. No group of creators. No influencer mixers. Just the two of them. I stayed hidden and kept the camera rolling. Evan wrapped his arm around her waist at the entrance. They kissed. Not a goodbye kiss. Not a staged PR move. The kind you don't give unless you think no one's watching. They walked in together. That night, I used a drone. Quiet, small, perfect for getting what I needed without stepping foot on the property. From my rental car in a lot across the hill, I flew it just outside their third-floor balcony. Recorded them drinking wine, laughing. Fiona danced barefoot in one of Evan's oversized hoodies. The next morning, she posted a picture of a mountain stream with the caption, "Solo sunrise hike." Just me and the trees. I almost laughed out loud. By then, I had more than enough footage. Her lies were stacked like dominoes. Perfect, curated, doomed to collapse. But the biggest twist came later that night. At a dive bar a few blocks from the resort, I overheard Evan chatting up a bartender. She asked if he was here on a honeymoon. He grinned and said, "Nah, just work. Fiancé doesn't do snow." Fiancé. I blinked, stunned. The next day, I searched his name online. Found a woman named Alicia tagged in a recent post with him, smiling next to a giant SUV, captioned, "Proud of my man and proud co-owner of this growing beast of a dealership." I clicked through her page. They were engaged. Wedding date set for October. She was the co-owner of the dealership Fiona had been sneaking off to. So now it wasn't just about me anymore. Fiona hadn't just been cheating. She was wrecking someone else's life too. Someone who clearly didn't see it coming. I copied everything. Uploaded backups to the cloud. Tucked a flash drive into a sealed envelope and labeled it Plan B. Fiona came home the next day with a smile, a fake tan, and a few new scratches on her leg. "Solo hike was magical," she said. "You would have loved it." I bet I would have. The night after she got back from Vail, Fiona climbed into bed beside me and whispered, "I missed you, babe," like nothing had happened. I just smiled and kissed her forehead. "Missed you too." She had no idea I'd watched her slow dance barefoot on a hotel balcony 2 nights ago with a man who wasn't me. That's when I knew. I wasn't going to confront her in private. I wanted the truth to come out exactly how she planned to destroy me. Publicly, with an audience. So I started setting the stage. There was a winery about 40 minutes outside Boulder, one Fiona had raved about on more than one occasion. Rustic string lights, vineyard views, the kind of place made to show off a sparkling ring and a forced laugh. It was her dream proposal backdrop, and now it would be mine. I booked the venue for what I told her was a just us weekend date. Then I secretly upgraded it into a small private event, a proposal party. I sent invites to a list of people I knew she'd want to impress, her parents, gym friends, social media buddies, even Riley and Tessa. She has no idea, I wrote in the invite. Let's surprise her with her surprise. She'd show up thinking she was setting me up for humiliation. Instead, I'd be holding the mic. Over the next 2 weeks, I slowly moved my things out of the house. She was so distracted by her content shoots and meal prep routines, she didn't even notice. I rented a small cabin near Nederland, quiet, remote, no shared leases or lingering memories. I told her I was working late most nights, editing, deep in the creative zone. She didn't question it. Meanwhile, I put together the real gift. I bought a simple wooden box. Inside, I placed a printed transcript of the bookstore cafe conversation, screenshots of her private messages with Evan, photos of their trip to Vail, a still of the drone footage showing them kissing, a flash drive with all the backup files, and finally, a screenshot of Evan's fiancé's engagement post. I topped it with a white ribbon. The last thing I did was loop in my closest friend, Nate, a fellow photographer. I asked him to discreetly record everything at the winery from 2 different angles. He didn't ask questions. Just said, "You sure?" I nodded. It's time. By the night before the event, the plan was locked. Fiona had no idea. She thought she was walking into her finest hour. Instead, she was walking into mine. The place looked like something out of a magazine. Fiona showed up 20 minutes late, of course, perfect timing for maximum entrance. She stepped out of a town car in a white off-shoulder dress, hair curled, makeup flawless, like she was auditioning for her own engagement photo shoot. Her eyes lit up when she saw the setup: candles, white roses, wine glasses gleaming in the sunset. Everyone was already gathered: her friends, her parents, even her cousin from Fort Collins she hadn't spoken to in months. I made sure of it. She walked toward me with a perfect gasp. "Cole, what is all this?" I smiled and took her hand. "Come sit. Dinner first." The winery's back patio was lit up with fairy lights. Everyone was in a good mood, toasting, laughing, taking selfies. Fiona played the part like she was born for it, clutching my arm and whispering "I knew it" under her breath. We had wine, charcuterie, even a string quartet playing soft background music. Everything she ever wanted. Then came dessert. I stood up, tapped my wine glass gently, and cleared my throat. "Thank you all for being here. Really, this night means more than I can explain." Fiona straightened her posture, resting her hand on my thigh. She gave a small smile to the crowd, the kind that says, "Watch this." I continued. "When Fiona and I met 2 years ago, I never imagined it would lead here. I was just a guy with a camera, following owls through the woods. And she was, well, this." I gestured to her, glowing, poised. People laughed. "She opened up my world in ways I didn't expect," I said. "And tonight, I want to return the favor." Her hand tightened around mine. I reached under the table and lifted the small wooden box. I held it out to her. "Fiona, this is for you." Her eyes sparkled as she opened it, then froze. The room fell silent. She pulled out the stack of photos first. A still of her and Evan on the Vale balcony. A close-up of them kissing at the trailhead. The printed Instagram captions. The text threads. The engagement post from Evan's fiancée. She stared down at the evidence, blinking. The color drained from her face. Someone in the back whispered, "What is that?" I turned to the crowd. "It's the truth," I said. "The real Fiona. The one who planned to fake an engagement, humiliate me, and run back to a man who already belongs to someone else." Fiona shot to her feet. "Cole, what the hell is this?" "You tell me," I said calmly. "You want to explain to your guests why your solo hike pictures were taken by a guy who's already engaged?" "No, this is crazy. You invaded my privacy," she shouted, her voice cracking. "You're just bitter." Tessa stood up, stunned. "Wait. Evan's engaged." Fiona spun around. "Stay out of it." That's when she started screaming. Not crying, screaming. Full-throated, furious, unhinged. She knocked over a wine glass, then lunged toward me. Nate, filming nearby, stepped in to block her just in time. The winery staff rushed in. "We're going to have to ask you to leave," one of them said. "He's the psycho," she screamed, jabbing a finger at me. "No," I said quietly. "I'm just the guy who got tired of being lied to." They escorted her off the patio, barefoot, sobbing, swearing all the way to the parking lot. I turned back to the stunned crowd. "Thank you all for coming." Then I sat down, poured myself another glass of wine, and raised it toward Nate. To honesty, it didn't take long for the news to spread. By the time I got home from the winery, the group chat Fiona had once named Boulder Barbies had already blown up. Screenshots. Voice notes. A 10-second clip someone recorded of Fiona screaming and being dragged out by the winery staff had already made it to TikTok. Someone added sad violin music and labeled it, "When the proposal flips the script." By morning, it was viral. Fiona's carefully curated life cracked like glass. Her sponsors started pulling back immediately. First, it was a yoga apparel brand that quietly removed her tag from their homepage. Then a popular protein company unfollowed her altogether. She posted a story the next day, dim lighting, voice soft and trembling, all vague apologies, and "There's so much misinformation going around." But she didn't name me. Didn't deny anything either. That's when Evan's fiancée made her move. Alicia posted a carousel of photos, a blurry shot of Fiona and Evan at the resort, followed by a screenshot of his solo business trip, itinerary, and finally a short caption. "When you find out the man you're supposed to marry is cheating on you, and the woman he's with is already plotting to betray someone else. Cheers to the trash taking itself out." Boom. The comments exploded. People weren't just mad, they were entertained. It was high drama with perfect lighting and matching outfits. And Fiona? She was suddenly the villain in her own storyline. 2 days later, she went private. 3 days later, she deleted over 100 posts. A week after that, 2 of her influencer agencies cut ties. One of them even posted a short statement about values and integrity. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt done. I kept quiet. No tell-all post, no revenge story. Just a couple of landscape shots from a foggy hike near Netherland. One of a hawk in mid-flight. Another of a mountain sunrise breaking through the clouds. I disabled comments. Let the silence speak for itself. Riley texted me once. "Riley, I had no idea how bad it really was." "I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Fiona, though, she tried. She emailed. DM'd me from a backup account, texted from 2 different numbers. One message said she missed me. Another said I ruined her life. The next was a long apology followed by, "You didn't have to go nuclear." I blocked everything. I wasn't interested in a dialogue. She chose how this would go the moment she turned my love into content. I just returned the favor minus the filters. In the quiet that followed, I finally felt what I hadn't felt in months. Peace. She didn't stop right away. Even after everything, Fiona kept reaching out, messages that bounced between blame and desperation. One day she was crying in voice notes. The next, she was accusing me of sabotaging her career out of jealousy. She even tried guilt, bringing up old memories like we were still us. But we weren't. I blocked every number, every account, every possible entry point. And still, she found ways. Through mutual friends, mostly trying to paint me as bitter, unstable, obsessed. But it didn't work. People had seen the footage. They knew what she'd said, how far she'd planned to go. Some dropped her immediately. Others just faded out, embarrassed. By the end of the month, her social presence was a ghost town. Meanwhile, I packed my camera and headed north. It wasn't planned. I just needed space, real space, where the air was clean and the trees didn't ask questions. I drove up to Alaska, took on a solo wildlife photo project through a friend of a friend. No cell service. No DM notifications. Just me, a tent, and the world in its rawest form. I hiked for days. Watched grizzlies from a safe distance. Tracked a pack of wolves through dense birch for 2 nights straight. For the first time in forever, I wasn't thinking about damage control or betrayal or who might be watching. Just light. Movement. Silence. One night, I set up camp near a glacier lake. The sky was so clear it looked fake, stars sharp enough to cut you. I was shooting time-lapse frames when I saw someone else at the ridge above me, adjusting a telescope. I waved. She waved back. Her name was Lena, 31, astrophysicist from Anchorage, working on some grant project to study cosmic light pollution. Her voice was calm, low, the kind that didn't waste words. We shared coffee from my thermos. Talked about northern lights and data sets and the sound foxes make when they get too close to tents at night. It wasn't a spark. Not at first. It was quieter than that. Like the steady warmth of sunlight through a thick winter jacket. Something real. The next morning, she asked if I wanted to hike to the ridge with her before sunrise. I said yes. Not because I was looking for anything, but because, for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to pretend. No filters. No cameras. No angles. Just 2 people, walking toward the light.